Thank you for joining tonight's engaging session on The Best Brand is Just Being Yourself. This session will include several items. Exercises, basically prompts that will assist you in building your brand, a Q&A to answer questions you may have about next steps, and then handouts and links to various resources that will be shared in the chat box as well as emailed to you the day after our session. Before we move on to the next slide, I wanted to alert you that we currently have both your video and audio turned off, but audio will be open during our Q&A segment. In the meantime, you're encouraged to respond to the exercises within the chat box, or if you have burning questions, please add them to the Q&A box so that we can get responses at the end of our session. As we chat about ways to be yourself, we'll walk through the branded bio, elevator pitch, social media, and networking. We'll briefly provide tips to ensure that your resume, cover letter, interviewing skills, and thank you notes are also branded in ways to promote your best skills. Personal branding puts you in the driver's seat, letting you decide on ways to promote your reputation and how others see you. Your only challenge is to determine how to promote yourself with both credibility and passion so that you're able to stand out from the competition in any setting. Let's start by assessing your strengths. If I were to ask 5 people who know you what they think you're good at or what makes you unique, what would they say? Would they give the same answer that you might say about yourself when you personally assess your strengths? I'd like for those joining our session to answer one of these 7 questions. So please take a moment and type your response in the chat. I'll start with, what do you want to be known for? And my response is that I'm a compassionate and supportive colleague who cares about connecting with others. So now it's your turn. Wonderful. Thank you for your responses about being charismatic and authentic. Well, some of your classmates, professors, friends, and community members may describe you as a team player with effective communication skills and the ability to embrace inclusivity and diversity. So even though people are providing you with adjectives, building your personal brand is about taking inventory of where you are now and accessing your current reputation instead of focusing too far in the past. In fact, we have a handout that highlights the top 8 skills that most employers look for, such as oral and written communication skills or teamwork. And this document will help you incorporate soft skills into your personal brand. Being yourself and developing your brand means that you have to figure out your target audience. Who are the people, employers, and community members that are looking for the skills, traits, and values that you possess? When you're thinking about your target audience, it's really important to understand what they need so that you can deliver it. Describing your brand will take a bit of research and planning to determine the industry needs of that employer, community member, or individual, along with a sense of collaboration and trust that you'll be able to deliver the promised experience to stakeholders. The handout I'm displaying on the screen is asking you to identify your short-term goals, research the qualifications for various positions, and be willing to learn more about industry buzzwords and skills during informational interviews or job shadowing opportunities. Special thanks to my colleague Emily for sharing these documents with you in the chat. So maybe you're looking for an internship or a postgraduate job but need some resources, websites, or contacts to successfully land the job you want. One of the goals for your personal brand is to positively influence people who are making decisions about hiring you for that internship, part-time or full-time job, or perhaps the resources you want. The people who have these opportunities are identified as your target audience. So if you're clear about your goals and able to describe the skills and experiences to the employer, community member, or individual based on their needs for their business or mission, then you've created a strategy to get noticed. So let's talk about your branded bio, which starts with your photo and includes a quick and memorable blurb about you. To help you decide what you'd like to write, stop and ask yourself, am I using my online brand for professional reasons, to influence others, to describe my mission in life, or for something else? Another way to describe your branded bio is to call it your professional summary. Basically, a shortened cover letter that describes your passion, your interests, and what skills you offer. I'm displaying two photos that were taken by professional photographers. The one on the left is located on American University's website, but the picture on the right is typically located on my social media pages. Both of the branded bios that I have displayed need a ton of help because it doesn't provide a full picture of what I'm truly passionate about. So I want each of you to think of ways that I could strengthen my professional brand, as well as how I want people to understand my role within career services or in the community. Since we've introduced the branded bio, this first person template will help you get started and will be accessible in the chat momentarily. For our exercise, let's use this template to describe an organization you joined on campus or off campus, a previous internship, or the time you volunteered. While I wait for comments about whether you have an example to share in the chat box, I'll give my example. I initially joined the Public Relations Student Society of America as a member during my sophomore year and eventually became vice president during my senior year. Prior to getting an offer to join EDS as a PR intern, which was a major IT firm, I was the editor and coordinator of PepCo's Killer Watchers program for one summer. During my tenure at PepCo, I helped the company by producing newsletters and writing press releases for over 1 million readers in the Washington, D.C. area. You'll see that Emily has shared the third person template in the chat, which is great for adding content to your LinkedIn page or sharing your biography with someone that will introduce you. However, the template that I have displayed here is great for that in-person networking discussion or during an interview, both of which we'll talk about a little bit later in our session. So do you have an example to share? Just type yes in the chat box. Okay, wonderful. Anyone familiar with an elevator pitch? Be sure to type yes or no in the chat box. Great, I see responses coming in with a mixture of both yes and no. Well, an elevator pitch is an introduction of who you are or what you're passionately wanting to pursue, which could be used in an interview setting or during a networking event. An elevator pitch should be fluid enough that it changes slightly based on who you're conversing with at the moment. Situations may vary, so you want to be prepared with several different versions of your elevator pitch. Let's focus a bit more on your personal brand and how the elevator pitch is a way to brag about your accomplishments. When you're ready to talk about yourself, it should be in 4 to 5 sentences about your professional interests, skills, and experience, and then include a question that will help you gauge the employer's needs as it relates to the skills you can offer. Does this process sound familiar? Well, it certainly does because we've covered a few of these areas in previous slides. During your elevator pitch, be sure to maintain eye contact, listen, and be confident in knowing that professionals want to connect and are searching for opportunities to share what they know. However, be sure you are making an effort throughout this conversation to discuss your personal brand. This personal pitch or elevator speech handout will get you started in crafting your own. Whether you are a first-year student or a graduate student, your major and experience within the classroom is not only helpful, but your elevator pitch may contain industry trends that the employer isn't as familiar with. Therefore, that individual may ask more questions about your class project. The template also contains samples once you've been in the workforce a couple of years, and you may want to discuss your experience more than your degree. Thanks, Emily, for sharing this document in the chat. Before we chat about how social media is a key part of your brand, let's think about how a written version of your elevator pitch can be used as your career story within social media profiles on LinkedIn, Twitter, Handshake, and more. Social media isn't just for describing the concert you attended last night or sharing a picture of your favorite DoorDash delivery. It's a chance to connect with the decision makers influencers, or other professionals you deem important to your future success. Many of you have probably used several of these tools, including Alumni Fire, where more than 4,000 individuals have raised their hands, indicating they are ready to chat with you during an information interview, provide job shadowing, or introduce you to a colleague within their firm. But now you're learning how social media plays a very important role in branding yourself within visual tools. We've already covered some key steps: creating your brand to describe what makes you unique. We've walked through steps to access your skills and things you're passionate about. Now we'll use social media to demonstrate our authenticity so that the online version of ourselves is broadcasted to employers and more. Before we move over to the next slide, I want to point out another great feature of Handshake. Each of you registered for tonight's session via Handshake, but there's a search function where you can type in the name of the employer and you'll either see the name of the people you can reach out to that work there or previous interns. Whether they attended American University or another school, you'll be able to connect with them without sharing personal contact information. This particular screenshot is of the Salvation Army, where one of my clients wanted to learn more about their humanitarian efforts before applying for an internship. She was pleasantly surprised as to the number of individuals that shared her same background and was able to ask a few questions to strengthen both her resume and cover letter. In case you're worried about privacy, your email address, telephone number, nor physical address is shared with fellow students, nor employers, unless you've decided to share documents with them that contain your personal information. LinkedIn not only provides great tip sheets on how to strengthen your profile, but they also have LinkedIn Learning. On this particular handout, you'll see that the first step is writing an informative profile headline. Do you remember me asking you to work on a branded bio? Well, this is the place to copy and paste your branded bio so people have a quick glimpse of who you are and your interests before they continue viewing your LinkedIn page. Speaking of branded bios or LinkedIn headlines, the ones I have displayed could also work for Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and your portfolio page. Depending on the industry of choice, the photo and background you use tells a lot about you to the employer, community member, or individual you're eager to connect with about opportunities. I really like how the graphic designer started listing a few specialty areas, but made the bio a bit more humorous by adding, "Let's make everything you do look great." In fact, look for additional examples within the links, also used as a way to credit the writer, as listed here on the slide. Here's a reminder from the Repler effect of not bad-mouthing a former employer, as well as refusing the urge to vent and overshare, and never lie about your work history and qualifications. In this day and age, social media is often used to voice opinions and concerns that may not be very popular with your future employer, and unfortunately, a deleted post never disappears. More often than not, I've met with individuals frustrated that a post they made as a teenager has showed up in a background check. So I urge you to be careful about what you post. Roughly 8 out of 10 jobs are found through professional contacts or personal networks, so consider how being involved with a student group will not only help you identify professional contacts, but give you an opportunity to build relationships that could lead to career advice and job-related information. The student fair, typically held outdoors twice per year, also gives you a chance to deliver your elevator pitch, demonstrating to current members why you should be able to join their student organization. Can you remember the names of one or two existing contacts that you received from a family member, friend, classmate, professor, or previous supervisor? Did they introduce you to someone that you always wanted to meet? Even if that encounter was completely personal and did not relate to a job or an internship, you already started the process of networking. Thanks again to my colleague for sharing the handout so fast within the chat and getting these documents to you. Since your goal is to become a successful networker by being yourself and sharing your background, networking will help get you to access those people, information, and resources, and possibly provide clarity around your career goals or unearth those jobs and internships that weren't publicly posted. Even your resume can demonstrate your brand. Think about the industry and the type of employers you want to connect with, and then decide if to create a resume on the left that incorporates color, graphics, and links to social media pages in the two-column style works for you. However, being yourself could also mean using the traditional style resume on the right. My colleague just shared our resume template with you in the chat. The first page is a great outline of what to include, and the second page is an example of how you would describe your experiences and course projects. While this is one of our undergraduate templates, it could easily be used for a graduate student or an alum by deciding what information to include or not include in your resume. What is the purpose behind the cover letter that everyone struggles with writing? Well, it's branding yourself with the employer, and it's often considered a writing sample. You can choose to write a cover letter that is factual, or as we go to the next slide, you can choose to create one that's creative, that tells a story and keeps the reader engaged. What I mostly hear during my one-on-one advising sessions is that clients look for positions that don't require a cover letter. However, now that you've attended this branding session, you'll see the cover letter as a way to stand out from the competition, and it's another tool to describe your amazing experiences. So this is an example of the cover letter that tells an engaging story while also sprinkling in examples of what makes you unique. Emily has shared the cover letter in the chat, and if you find yourself challenged with writing one, be sure to schedule a session with your career advisor, who is more than willing to help critique it against the jobs or internships descriptions that you've identified. Take a look at the left-hand column and respond in the chat with the type of interview you've experienced. Wow, quite interesting that many of you have experienced in-person or Zoom interviews, but not a pre-recorded list of questions used by artificial intelligence. Well, I'm here to alert you that HireVue or some similar software package is often used as the first round interview. Here's the reason. The larger companies often receive thousands of resumes, so using AI that listens for voice inflection to determine if you're authentic and possibly being truthful when you describe your experiences, as well as the ability to rate your confidence based on your body language and eye contact, helps the employer to reduce the pile to a manageable list that they can invite for a one-on-one, in-person, or group interview. What about the formats on the right? Have you participated in an open-ended interview where the employer combs through your resume with various questions that could include, tell me about yourself, or why are you the best candidate for this role? What about a behavioral question? Tell me about a time when you work with a difficult person or a difficult circumstance, where your response is often an indication of where your past behavior could equal similar future results. Behavior interviews give you an opportunity to incorporate transferable skills within your story. These skills include but are not limited to teamwork, attention to detail, dealing with others, obstacles, multitasking, and more. Because there's no right way to answer a behavior interviewing question, you can practice being yourself by giving a star response. In other words, walking someone through the situation. I was given a group project in my methods class. The task, I took a leadership role and delegated tasks to each team member. Action, I incorporated quantifiable testing methods to determine if our theory was true. And results, was able to chart the test results and provide a group presentation that demonstrated both my oral and written communication skills. Now, this response was pretty general, so think of ways of being more specific about the skills you gained and how you're able to demonstrate that in your response. If you want to practice for upcoming interviews as well as get a feel for artificial intelligence, then be sure to access Big Interview through the resource tab of your Handshake account. Big Interview will help you learn and practice your interview skills with general industry or competency-based questions ranging from standard to tough, will help you watch or read while you master lessons to become an interviewing pro, will provide an answer builder to develop replies to behavior questions, as well as give feedback on the technical aspects of your practice sessions and ways you can improve your artificial intelligence interview through feedback. A great tradition is to send thank you notes to the person that referred you to the company, the representative that interviewed you, or the community member that provided you with additional resources. People are often quite happy with a handwritten note, but if time is of the essence, then a thank you note via email, LinkedIn, or social media works too. Most importantly, the thank you note gives you one more opportunity to brand yourself, showcase your skills, and show the reader why you should be considered from a pile of other candidates. We've covered a lot on branding yourself, and if you haven't had enough time to digest everything, be sure to view the presentation again via YouTube. Use the handouts to develop your elevator pitch, craft your branded bio, venture into using social media for networking, and then schedule a session with your career advisor to discuss your goals. Mostly, I hope you'll take advantage of the various sessions available on our Career Center YouTube page or access the list of LinkedIn courses. LinkedIn Learning includes transcripts within the modules. You can even read along with the transcript tab or copy the information to your cheat sheet so that you remember how to use the tool that you just learned. Please note that if you have a LinkedIn page, you only need to access the portal, venture over to the academic page, select library database, choose the letter L, and then connect it to your LinkedIn page. That means in the future, you can access the LinkedIn Learning button directly from your LinkedIn page without having to log into the portal. This service is available to current students, so again, we hope you take advantage of it. Thank you for your time and participation this evening. We will now open the Q&A box for you to ask questions.